Okay.
How'd you know?
Well, you know, it's
You've been doing this for a while.
been doing it for a little while. I'm here with Laura Harrington, and Laura has written a book, Alice Bliss, and you're local.
Yes, I am.
And how long have you been in the area?
20 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I know, not local, but
No, I was going to say I would thought that you were like a real carpetbagger, but you know, you've 20 years,
Yeah.
you've staked a claim. So you was telling me earlier, you
Yeah.
live in one of the Hopper houses.
I do. We feel so lucky to live in it. We love that house.
And you recognized it.
Yep, drove by. We were about to buy another house in another town, and I was driving around Gloucester, and I saw the house, and I stopped my car. I was like, that's it. That's the house I want to live in. And my husband, I came to see it, and then my husband came to see it subsequently, and all he had to do was walk in the back door, and he said, this is our house.
So it was based more on the house than the fact that it was a Hopper house.
Yes, but you know, I had a sense of recognizing the house because I'd seen it in pictures. I studied art history in college, and then a lot of people in my family are really interested in architecture, and my husband's a landscape architect, so we're kind of into architecture. So it was
Very
like, wow,
cool.
look at, can you imagine you could live in this house?
You're multi-talented. Architecture, theater,
Yep,
writing books,
yep.
killing
Having
it.
fun.
Yeah, that's all good stuff.
It's good
You know,
stuff.
when you can make a living creating,
Yep.
is it much better?
Oh, well, you know, it's better because you love what you're doing, and there's no question about that. It's tough because it's so uncertain, and you have no idea what your income is going to be year to year, or if there will be an income year to year. So about 15 years ago, I also started teaching, and I teach part-time, and that's been wonderful. So I feel very lucky.
you go.
So you sort of stitch it all together from different elements.
Best of both worlds.
Yep.
Well, we're here to talk about Alice Bliss. I'm going to hold this. This is the book, and you're going on a book. Are you on a book tour currently?
Starts on June 8th.
On
The
June
book just hit the bookstores today.
Oh, very exciting. I feel very honored that you're here with me right now.
People got the call that their books were in at the bookstore downtown. I was very excited to hear that at the gym this morning.
I'm very excited to hear that their books are here locally.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, very cool.
Absolutely.
Very cool. And you're going to be all over. You're the Harvard Bookstore, Barnes and Noble in Peabody, Jabberwocky in Newburyport, in Concord, Mass, at the Concord Bookshop,
Yep.
Toad Hall, Boston Public Library, Friends Peak Island Library, in Peaks Island, Maine, and Longfellow Books in Portland, Maine.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good tour right
yeah,
there
it's
for
good.
you.
Yeah,
Get
good
out,
for a new book.
get out there and meet the people. Now, do you have an agent, or is this all?
I do have an agent. I don't think you can sell a book these days without one, really. So a good friend of mine, because this was a new world to me, it's my first book, introduced me to an agent who introduced me to another agent, and then she loved the book and sold it in a couple of weeks. So I had an unusual story with this book. Everybody who touched it loved it.
Wow.
So let's hope that continues.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
So what was your background that brought you to writing?
I think I always knew I was a writer, and I think my parents knew I was a writer, which is a very odd, because people have been asking me this question, and I haven't thought about that really.
You mean I wasn't original with my question?
No,
is that
no,
what you're trying to say?
no, but for me, I was like, wait, I mean, is the answer really from the time I was a little kid? And then the dream of writing was so important to me that I didn't do it for a long time. I didn't really write in college, and I traveled with my husband and worked for a year or two after college, and finally I realized I needed to find out whether I was going to do it or not. And so dealing with the fear of failure, I was afraid I was going to fail at it, and then I'd lose this incredible dream I'd had all my life. And I finally got up the courage to say, well, I need to know one way or the other, and then fish or cut bait, and do it or not do it. And that's when I started writing for the theater, and have had a wonderful, wonderful 20 plus years in the theater, working all over the country.
Wow.
And I write plays and musicals and operas and radio plays.
What a life you've had. Look at you.
I have had, I've had a great time. I've had a great
My
time.
goodness gracious.
And then in 2008, I won this really fantastic award for a musical that I'd written. And the award is given by the Kleban Foundation, and you know the musical A Chorus Line, of course. You probably don't know the name of the guy who wrote the lyrics, but his name was Edward Kleban, and he made a fortune and died quite young. And he set up this grant for writers. He said, the composers can go and to the street corner and play their music, and people will give them money if they're down and out. What are the writers supposed to do? So it's a cash award, and it gave me 2 years of writing time.
Oh, goodness.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
What a gift. What an affirmation for my work, and then what a gift. And it's funny, because when they gave me the award, I was very excited, but I didn't think, oh, great, I can't wait to write my next musical. I thought, okay, so what does that mean? What does that mean? This feeling of I don't want to do what I've been doing. And I realized I really wanted to be a beginner again and start over, and not start over, but try something I'd never done before, and reconnect to the creative process by doing something that I would likely fail at. But who knew? Who knew what the outcome would be? And to just sort of jump in with
You're
something
scared to
completely
death,
new.
though. What was your mindset?
I was excited, and I was there in the early period. There was also this incredible tension around, well, what does this mean? You know, am I abandoning my theater career? Am I still a playwright? I'm not a novelist yet. I haven't. Is it a book? Who knows? You know, when you begin, you have no idea what's going to happen. And there were months of that kind of uncertainty, but the book itself and the story of these characters was so compelling that as soon as that got started, it started to carry me along.
Yeah.
In this wonderful way.
Wow.
So
Alice Bliss, and we should talk a little bit about the book.
Yeah, sure.
And why don't you go ahead? Was that a nice segue?
It was excellent.
That was professional.
Excellent.
That's what you get when you go, "Good morning, Gloucester." Right?
We should talk about the book. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yes, get to the point.
It's all you.
So Alice Bliss is about a 15-year-old girl. It's a classic coming-of-age story, and she has a very, very close relationship with her dad. And he's in the reserves, and he gets deployed to Iraq. So the book is about Alice growing up without her father in that critical year of her life when she's 15, and about the effect of the war on everyone at home. The children, the wives, the families, the communities who have lost significant people, whether they come back or not. And I really wanted to tell this story because it's an untold story. There are, 99% of us are not engaged in the war, and 1% of us are. And we don't know a whole lot. We might know, we might see the headlines, we might see photographs of the war. We don't know a whole lot about what's happening to the families at home. And the kids especially, and the families of reservists who are not living on base, feel a special kind of isolation because they can live in a community where very few of the people around them are experiencing the same thing. People might not know that they're going through what they're going through. And I've heard kids say, not only do people not know our story, they don't even know that we exist.
Yeah.
And it seemed like a really compelling story to me, as well as the fact that I think there's a kind of, 10 years into this war, I couldn't imagine we'd still be in the war when I started writing the book. I think we're uneasy, there's a disquiet, there's a sense of how is this okay that our country can be at war for 10 years and we're all living like nothing is happening.
Yeah.
And I think the book helps address those feelings a bit.
How do you get into the mindset of a 15-year-old girl that's going through this? I mean, what kind of, do you talk to people? What is the process there?
You talk to people, I do a lot of reading, and then ultimately you kind of have to trust that the characters that start to appear in your mind have their own lives and their own voices, and it's kind of a question of listening to them and getting it down. And I don't know why. I have a tremendous affinity for teenagers and teenage voices. The last musical that I wrote that won that award has a 12-year-old character in it that people just went nuts over. And it was just wonderful to write this kid, and I think that's part of what gave me the confidence to write Alice, and feel that I had a sensitivity to that. And then from my own experience, at a younger age than she was, my two brothers enlisted in the Air Force, and both left at the same time, one out of high school and one out of college. And those were dark times in the country. It was 1966, and a tough time for my parents who had lived through World War II, and my dad was in France. So it was, I think I'm working through or writing about that experience as well, that sense of loss and change, and from the point of view of a child who can't impact, who can't make it stop happening, who can't change the direction that it's going in. and what happens to all of those thoughts and feelings.
So it's very personal.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. It is. It's probably my most personal work,
Okay.
actually. Which I've written a whole lot about history, and I'm fascinated by all kinds of things. And this is and my father had recently died, and so it's a lot about the loss of my dad is in this book.
I see, yeah. Amazing. There's no readings in Gloucester, I see.
Yeah, well, we were trying to get to the Gloucester Bookstore, and we couldn't get onto the schedule because of St. Peter's Fiesta. You see that my book comes out
right, yeah.
at a really bad moment in time
Yes,
in terms of,
3rd of
nobody's going to
July.
be going to a book reading during the St. Peter's Fiesta for those 10 days.
Good luck parking down there.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to be at Rockport Library with
Toad
Toad
Hall.
Hall Books.
Yep, June
Yeah.
15th from 7 to 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that if people want to meet you, that's
That's
great. So we're talking about Alice Bliss, and we're talking about with Laura Harrington. And Laura, why don't you tell people where they can get more information about the book? And you're all over social media. You have Twitter, Facebook. Why don't you tell people?
Okay. Yes. You can find me at www.lauraharringtonbooks.com. And you can find me on Twitter. My handle is Bookalike, like lookalike with a B. And you can find me on Facebook. Just what do? You would look up Laura Harrington author, and you'd find me. So I'm right there, and all of my events will list there. And my blog is at lauraharringtonbooks.com. So everything you ever want to know about me is in those places.
All right, look for the book. This is the cover right here, Alice Bliss, a novel by Laura Harrington. Thank you so much for coming down.
Joey, thank you.
All right.
Great job.